La Ronde is Canada's only Six Flags park and my first Six Flags park. I had low expectations due to hearing mixed opinions, primarily negative, about this park. Later in the video, you will learn what I took away from the park. This amusement park was the first Six Flags park that I have ever visited. It was also my first time riding a B&M coaster, an Intamin coaster, an S&S ride of any kind, and 2 Vekoma coasters. And yes, it's the dreaded SLC and Boomerang. Although I did not have high expectations, I was still excited to see what B&M had on the table. I picked up 5 credits and new flat rides that I've never ridden before. I picked quality over quantity, so I got on the B&Ms, the Vekomas, and the Intamins, and I left the rest. I would have done Monster, but that coaster was not operating the day that I went. I was a little disappointed, but let's be honest, that coaster was not the reason I went to the park at all. I'm going to start with what I did not like about the park, to get the negatives out of the way. The first part was the layout. It was shaped like a moon, with 2 dead ends. The operations were okay, but could have been better. The parking lot is atrocious, and I know people complain about how you waited to enter the park, but I did the same thing for Canada's Wonderland, and you hear many more complain about La Ronde's front entrance, where you will hear very little about Canada's Wonderland's front entrance. The last one is top-heavy coaster lineups. A nitpick in my opinion, but that could also be due to the fact that I live hours from the closest roller coaster, so I'm just happy to be at an amusement park that has a coaster. But I will still acknowledge it. One aspect about La Ronde that I noticed is its excellent flat ride collection. My favorite flat ride was Titan. It was my first frisbee of any type. And the airtime and hang time mix on that thing blew my mind. At the highest points, it was insane. It may have a lot of the same thing, but when the same thing is done well, that's all that really matters to me. I did my first Star Flyer. It was alright. It had good views, but oddly enough, it made me a tiny bit sick. The one at Six Flags New England did not make me sick at all. I learned that the reason why I got sick at La Ronde's Star Flyer was I didn't eat enough before riding it. This will play into Vampire, which is why I'm bringing it up. But it still has good views. Demon was another flat ride I did. It was fun, and I liked its forces and its hang time on it. I felt very strapped in, which was the con of the ride, so the hang time was somewhat minimal, but still, it was crazy, and unlike some people, I enjoyed it lots. I have to give credit to one of the reasons why I liked it so much to Bruno, who you could just tell by the way he did his job, he absolutely loved his job. The last 2 was Orbit, which is the S&S Space Tower, great airtime and fun launch, and Vertigo. Kind of like La Chaos, just executed differently if that makes sense. I did 5 coasters as well. And unlike the flat rides, I will go by order. The first roller coaster I did was Vampire. I decided to do that one first because it would be my first B&M and was right there, right by the entrance. Let's just say I was not expecting it to be as intense as it was. The forces were crazy. What I consider to be a flaw, which is despite the lack of a rattle on the coaster, it has a lot of headbanging. I had to ride defensively due to the fact that I was not warmed up and also, like I previously mentioned, didn't eat enough. There were 2 moments of the ride that I was pretty close to being sick, which that part was on my end. But when you get off a ride that almost made you sick twice and had headbanging, but still enjoyed it, then that's a sign it's a pretty good ride. The second coaster I did was Goliath, a B&M Hyperlight, or what I like to call them, B&M Megas. I was expecting it to be fun and have some floater hills, but what I did not expect was the pure strength of that airtime. The first drop for me gave me Flowjector airtime. I'm like the only person who says that, so don't expect that your ride will be like that for you too. As you plummeted down the hill, you did not touch your seat at all. The sensation of the train pulling you down the hill as you felt like you were flying was wild. At that moment, I had realized why people love B&M Hyper so much. After Goliath, I rode my first boomerang. The stomach-dropping feeling caught me off guard, so I was pleasantly surprised by it. And I didn't get the headbanging due to how defensively I was riding it. After that, I did Endor. It's an SLC, what do I gotta say? It was alright. It wasn't the best, but it's not as bad as people made it out to be. After that, I did Dragon. It was my first Intamin, and it was forceless, but the tacky theming was really charming, and I found it really enjoyable. This is for the Ronde. What I would suggest doing is converting La Monster to an RMC hybrid. Next, I would recommend adding something like Super Boomerang, or any kind of new gen Vekoma that has a launch, and removing Endor to make room for like a water ride. In my opinion, these would improve the park quite a bit. It may be at a single rail, but I doubt these will happen because Six Flags just does not like to invest in this park. I left La Ronde with one question. Was this really what everyone hates? Sure, it's no Wonderland or Hershey Park, but at the airtime in some of the rides in the raw intensity, Vampire really made me remember why I was so enthusiastic about roller coasters. As of 2023, La Ronde is one of 2 Six Flags that I've been to. I believe that Six Flags New England is the better park, but I could not say that it was much better than La Ronde. Now that's not me dissing Six Flags New England. I just love La Ronde. I would honestly give that park an 8 out of 10. I know Six Flags can do better, and that is something I agree when it comes to the critics. But I believe that Six Flags has a good park that has potential to be something great, but it is nowhere near as bad as some say. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and like my video. Have a great day.